And good morning, everyone. This is Neil Mancor, and I'm here with my guest, Peter Misiaszek, who is the Director of Stewardship Development for the Diocese of Toronto. And this is our Beyond the Plate show, Financial Generosity in an Age of COVID-19. And so we've been looking at different ways that this current challenge is really changing the way we think about generosity and the church. Peter, you've been the Director of Stewardship Development for what, 17 years now?
17 years, yeah. Since 2003, when I joined the diocese. I love the position. It affords me a great opportunity to work with lots of volunteers and clergy across our diocese, to visit lots of interesting places. And I'm always inspired when I'm able to work with those leadership people to envision and grow leadership, ministry.
And actually, you worked farther afield than just Toronto. You ended up going kind of all over the world thinking about this stuff, but you also came to Montreal. We were just talking about that about 10 years ago. In 2010, you came out to the Diocese of Montreal.
I did. I remember that. I came to a conference that was, I'm trying to remember where we held it.
It was at St. Barnabas Church, Pierrefonds. You came.
Okay, very good. Yeah. And there had to be 100 people who came out to that event.
It was a great event.
Terrifically well attended, and I talked about the narrative budget, I talked about joyful giving, I talked about pre-authorized giving, and you really took interest in it. And absolutely. I know at St. George's, St. Anne de Bellevue, you incorporated a lot of those ideas in your own ministry. And as a result, as I understand it, ministry thrived.
It was amazing. And I think that one of the things I learned about that was, stewardship education. I mean, of course, it's not a one-shot thing. It's kind of a lifetime, but it's something you can do that makes a real difference to the ministry of your church. And it's an encouraging, it's really life-giving to people, and it just helps people take control of their financial generosity towards the church. But certainly as a priest, I was like, wow, so this is something I can do that makes a real difference. And you gave us the tools to do that. Do you think things have moved on in 10 years? Like, how has your thinking moved on? I mean, those fundamentals of pre-authorized giving, narrative budgets, campaigning, what's kind of the same and what's changed?
It's still critical, but there are, since then, we've done a Dawson Capital campaign as well. So we've used that to raise $35 million to support ministry. We did that in 2010 to 2012. And the diocese has experienced the benefits of that for many, many years thereafter. But in addition to that, I still am a huge fan of pre-authorized remittance. I talk about it all I can, because I know that when people use it, they actually end up giving more. They give about 40% more when they use pre-authorized giving versus envelopes alone. But also it becomes an indicator of health in a parish. And so parishes that are able to achieve and maintain about 50% of their giving through pre-authorized giving, find that they're able to weather a storm like COVID-19 much better than those that are relying exclusively or almost exclusively on envelopes. Because right now, a lot of places, quite frankly, aren't receiving the envelope givers. I mean, yeah. They may be getting sporadic support, but I'm relatively certain parishes aren't achieving 100% fulfillment from envelope holders than they are from those who are on pre-authorized remittance. So that's still vital, and it's still critical, and it's still something that parishes, at least in our context in Toronto, still put a great deal of attention on. But we got to go beyond that. We've got to constantly invest in conversations around stewardship in our parishes. So that includes things like, preaching from the pulpit about generosity, about celebrating generosity in the parish by acknowledging volunteers and the work that they're doing, and doing that in a very public, authentic way, about having people provide personal witnesses to the congregation about why the parish is important in their life and the ministry it provides. Something as simple as the parish priest sending a note when the tax receipts go out, a letter of thank you to those who've made a gift, and a letter of invitation to those who are on the parish list, but who may not be regular givers. There's always opportunities to engage with people, because we want the family, everybody who are members of our congregations, to be supporting the life and ministry of this place. You know, some people don't give because they haven't been asked. Some people come to our churches and they don't know anything about a culture of generosity. They may be unchurched, they may be de-churched, they may be people who have never grown up in the context of a church, and this whole idea of giving seems foreign to them. So the plate gets passed around and they don't know what they're supposed to do. Are they supposed to put money in it? Are they supposed to make change? What are they supposed to do with it? So unless we tell people, unless we have that culture that promotes generosity in our parishes, people then don't opt in, and we don't experience the robustness and support of ministry.
Yeah, and I think that's especially true with what we would call sort of younger people or the next generation. I know my own kids are young adults now. They're at that point where they're making their own choices about their Christian identity, where they go to church, what does it mean for them to be Anglican. They both see themselves as Anglican. But, you know, if we're not there, we often talk about, well, young people don't participate in church anymore, but we also don't necessarily make it available for them to express their generosity. And they're, you know, often looking for opportunities to express financial generosity. And if we're still just sort of operating envelopes, do you think we're missing something with that generation that is a digital generation who have a different attitude towards money?
So here's what we've experienced in the Diocese of Toronto, and I think it's been brought to light, especially by COVID-19, is how many parishes don't have online giving links on their websites. Yeah. Actually, let's even take a step back. How many parishes have websites? So I believe every parish should have a website, because the website operates as a virtual newsletter for the parish. It operates as that vehicle where seekers can come to and find information, but also current members can go to and be updated about the goings on in the parish, to find out times for services, to find out about social engagements, about prayer studies, whatever the parish is offering. So the website becomes a vital vehicle to connect with people, and more so now than ever before as we're locked down in our homes. But then on the website, having a link that people can make gifts online. If you've never heard about Canada Helps, I'm telling you all about Canada Helps now. Go online, Google canadahelps.ca. You can go to their website, and Canada Helps operates as a conduit to promote generosity. And what they do, it's amazing what they do. So not only will they help facilitate the dissemination of gifts, so they get gifts to them that are designated for specific charities, and they obviously operate as a flow through in that regard. But every charity in Canada has a template at Canada Helps. And so what you need to do is to go to Canada Helps and claim your page at Canada Helps. And when you do that, you can customize it, and then you can put a link directly to your parish website so that you can encourage people to go there and make a gift. So if you're doing a digital presentation right now, a live stream on Sunday or some other service during the week, you can tell people, tastefully of course, during the service, perhaps after the sermon or during the prayer, or just after the prayers of the people, that, you know, ministry continues. We count on the generosity of members of our congregation, because while the seats of the church are free, the church relies almost exclusively on the people in those pews to fund the ministry that's going on there. So in this lockdown, you can still support the ministry of the church. Go online, make a gift using that donate button on the parish website, make a gift through Canada Helps. It's going to be, it'll go to the parish within 2 weeks. They'll get the money and they'll know who gave it, unless you choose not to identify yourself. And it's put to work for ministry right away. Other parishes are experimenting with different types of what we call second generation vehicles of giving. So these are things like text giving, tap giving. I guess e-transfer could be part of that as well. But essentially text giving, if you go to another page called text2give.com, so just again, put that in the search engine and it'll come up. And the company operates a vehicle that allows parishes to set up an account so that it becomes very simple. All people have to do is put in the number, and they're directed immediately to a customized parish page, text to give, and they can make a donation that way. So if you're using your smartphone, and we have everything on here, we pay all sorts of bills through our smartphones. We can be updated about our own banking information. The smartphone becomes a very intelligent vehicle in assisting us for text giving. The Diocese of Toronto is also exploring QR code giving. I don't know if people are familiar with that. They might see it on an airplane ticket, or there's a cereal bar similar to a QR code that exists on many products that you buy at the grocery store. But we're exploring options about having QR code technology in the diocese, and it's very straightforward. All you do, turn your phone on, tap it onto the QR code, and your parish, your diocesan or parish information pops up right there, and you're able to make an online donation. So this is a really versatile tool, and it's something that we have to be mindful of, because you're right, you've identified your own kids, and I can identify my own kids as well. They don't use checks.
No, so they don't really know to write though.
They're not carrying cash with them. Yeah. They're paying through debit, virtually everything, but also they're making e-transfers through their phone. So the same thing applies to the church.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I understand for those who are, who've been around in the church for some time, who are in their 50s, 60s, or 70s, or older, and they're set in their ways about how they're going to give to support the church. But we've got to be exploring new ways, especially at a time now where live streaming is the new norm.
Don't you think as well it's about being available when people want to be generous? Sure. Like, yeah. We were talking about this the other day, when you have your birthday now on Facebook, they'll suggest a number of fundraisers that you could do a fundraiser for your birthday, and that's becoming quite common. I remember, my birthday was a couple of weeks ago. Facebook suggested about 6 different things. So they're actually coming to us, right, fundraisers, and the church is kind of still saying, well, you come towards us on Sunday morning during that one hymn, and that's the giving moment. We have a hymn, and we've kind of still got this sense of that's the giving moment, but that moment right now has disappeared. So I gotta tell you, I share you my story about Facebook, because my birthday was on March 13th. And so about 10 days before my birthday, I got that message from Facebook that popped up about supporting your own charity and doing a fundraiser on Facebook. And what I did is, I hummed and hawed about it for a few moments, and I thought, you know what, I think I'm going to do this. And so I identified a charity that's really near and dear to me. It's called All Saints Church Community Center in Toronto. It's an Anglican ministry. It's funded by the Diocese of Toronto, and it provides outreach services to people in a very difficult community in Toronto, where there's issues about income security and housing security. There's a significant ministry to sex trade workers. They have a needle exchange program there. They're doing a lot of good stuff, a lot of gospel stuff in a really rough neighborhood. And so I suggested, okay, I'm going to do a fundraiser. I'm going to raise $1,000. That's what I said as my goal on Facebook. And by the following day, we had gone to $1,500. So it was fantastic. And what's really neat about Facebook is that, so you can broadcast it to your network. So I sent a blast out to all my friends and say, I'm doing this. And what can happen is one of your friends comes on board, they make a gift, but then they can then distribute that message to their network of friends as well. So you have this incredible capacity to connect with so many people so quickly. And, the mind of a fundraiser sort of kicked in when I was doing this on Facebook. So not only was did I send out the request,
I was giving updates like every hour. So I was sending information, maybe not every hour, every couple hours I was sending information saying, we're almost there, help me meet my goal for All Saints, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it was truly amazing. So I had 22 donors over the course of 1 day. And we hit our goal the following day. So I remember doing it on a Friday, and by noon the following Saturday, we'd hit $1,500. And it got me thinking about the incredible capacity we have, even within our own churches, to use something like this. As long as obviously people are on Facebook, but a lot of people are, and especially a lot of people who are 50, 60, 70 somethings, that tends to be the social networking vehicle for those generations. So it's a great way to connect with people. It perhaps can be a vehicle in which parishes or individuals within parishes can do fundraising for specific outreach or ministry programs that they're doing as a fun way of engaging with other people. And obviously people can kibbutz and make comments while they're doing so. And I was really appreciative of having the opportunity to do that. And I know that for me, actually, when you're in your 50s, I don't need anything at a birthday. And the fact that 22 people were so inclined to make a gift to my favorite charity made me feel really good.
I like that. And I think that, some of our churches have started putting their Canada Helps links and donate now buttons right in Facebook posts. It is possible for churches just to do that.
Absolutely, they are.
And I think is what you're talking about with the networking, I think is so important, because I always think of Facebook as being like a lattice. I don't know if my hand is showing that well. It's like a lattice fence, right, of networks. And people don't realize Facebook is not a website that's static.
That's right.
A networking tool. And that's why if you just...
It's very dynamic.
Yeah.
You can go on there and have benign conversations if that's what you're doing. You can join groups and just have little isolated chats, or you can you can post pictures to all your friends and show them, where you've been, where you've gone on vacation. But you can also use it as a valuable tool to connect with people, to connect with members of your congregation, to connect with individuals as I did for this online giving. And there's also the ability to do webcasting through Facebook. So, yeah. For example, the Diocese of Toronto now on Sundays, when it has their service from the cathedral, they use Facebook as the vehicle to broadcast that. Every parish has the capacity to use this technology. And so I think it's incumbent on us to realize that there's no better time than now to be doing this.
Yeah, and I want to get back to that. You talked about this at the beginning. So you say you're doing a Facebook service. Personally, my preference are Facebook services, because I feel that's like I can go to church, I can make my presence felt if I want to by typing things in.
Yep.
Comment. Whereas a Zoom, some people like Zoom service. Zoom is also good because of the connection. You can see people and talk to people, but they're different. But in either case, there's been a bit of at first when we started 6 weeks ago, we were also kind of traumatized. We didn't want to talk about money, but now we're realizing, okay, so how do we talk about money while we're in this online environment? Right. And how do we, as you say, ask people? So make the ask while we're doing, a Facebook service, a Zoom service.
So I think there has been, I think when we first got into this, the new norm, as some people are calling right now, as I correctly identified, it was 6 weeks ago, we just wanted to sort of get things up and going. We just wanted to know that we could do it, because most parishes had never done a webcast. They'd never used the technology. And I remember the first weekend that it was done at the cathedral, it was a bit rough. This is the St. James Cathedral in Toronto. It was a bit rough. Sound wasn't solid. The picture wasn't crystal clear. But by the next week, they had all that stuff worked out, so that when the service got going, the pitch of the music from the organ was splendid. The clarity from the dean when he gave the sermon was crystal clear. It's as if you were in the room with him, hearing it there and then. And the visual was remarkable as well. In fact, for me, I have to say, I I thought I was going to be disappointed. I thought that because I'm not in a real church, I'm not experiencing, I guess, the intimacy of people being around me and seeing a lot of visual stimulation. I thought the solemnness would be lacking, and yet there's a certain solemnness and starkness about being in an empty church when a service is going on. And there's a certain authenticity when there's only like 4 people gathered there, but they're doing everything so perfectly. And it's clear that they've done a lot of time, they put in a lot of time and preparation so that the service that goes virtual is fantastic. It's a good experience for people who are joining them. So I think we have opportunities. There's ways that we can use the service that we are putting out there for people to make online gifts as well, and to give virtually during that service. We don't have to be crass. We don't have to ask, repeatedly throughout the service. We don't have to constantly have a footer running at the bottom saying to give the Diocese of Montreal. We don't want to be like that. I think what we do is we take a look at what do we currently do in our service. So if people were gathering on a Sunday, where would we have the collection? Well, the collection would be typically taken in most parishes after the prayers of the people. We'd have an interlude, a song would be played, and the collection plate would pass along. So why can't we do something similar when we're doing our own live streaming now? I don't know what the case is in Montreal, but in Toronto, we've made a decision that we're actually not going to do Eucharist. So we're typically doing the Book of Common, BAS service though, but for morning prayer. And so what I've now suggested for the diocese, and I think they're going to move forward with this starting not this Sunday, but next Sunday, is that right after the prayers of the people, the offertory plate is going to be sort of left out at the chancel steps. So you'll have that visual reminder that's there, and the dean is going to make a request for a gift at that time, and there will be a piece of music played appropriately at that time, and people will be invited to make a gift online or to go to another site, to whether it's if it's text giving or what have you, if they have it in place at that time. But certainly people will be directed to go online to make a gift at that time to support the ongoing ministry that's taking place there. And so this past weekend, the experience at St. James Cathedral was, in the last 5 minutes of the service, they had a sort of footer that simply said, free will offerings could be made to the diocese to St. James Cathedral, and it provided the web link. Now, the problem with having it at the end of the service is that viewership has dropped off markedly. In fact, when you're watching these things on YouTube, sorry, not on YouTube, on Facebook, there's a little counter that's on the page, and it tells you how many people are participating. And what you typically notice with the service is that attention seems to peak sometime during mid-sermon time, and then it starts to drop off. But certainly by the end of the service, it's a fraction of the people who had been attending when the sermon was taking place. So take advantage of doing it somewhere in the middle, maybe even before the prayers of the people. But put the collection plate out, put it at the chancel steps, make a request for an offering, let people know that the mission and ministry of the church survives thanks to the generosity of people who are part of the worshiping community. And even though that we're not physically present, the ministry of the church still continues, right? Mm-hmm. So the parish priest is still available. The parish priest can still do pastoral visitation. We're still doing lots of outreach to the community. We're still preparing lunches for the drop-in. Parishes are still doing Bible studies. People are still coming together virtually, though, for other forms of ministry. And despite the fact that we can't meet in that church, you still got to pay for its upkeep as well. So there will be a time where we will be able to gather again back in our parishes. But for now, the way that we are able to connect people is through live streaming. And we want people to continue with that generosity. And so we'll continue to invite that generosity sometime during the service in a tasteful way. It doesn't take away, doesn't become the focus of the service, but at its appropriate time, we're going to welcome and request a gift of generosity from people who are viewing us.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. I mean, some people are finding they're actually reaching a much larger audience than before, of people who care about the church.
It's remarkable because this, on Easter Sunday, St. James Cathedral had over 6,000 unique viewers watching the service. So, I mean, we don't know if they stayed for the whole service. So they could have come on for 15 seconds or they could have stayed for an hour. We don't know that, but we do know that during the course of that service, just over 6,000 people tuned in at some time, sometimes from as far away as Europe, and some people even came to us from Southern Africa. You know, if it was a typical Easter Sunday, we would we would reach out to about 1,500 who attended the service physically. Mm-hmm. So we've essentially increased our reach threefold by virtue of the fact that we were live streaming. And so it makes me wonder, so the church is live streaming is becoming a way of reaching out to new people. Not only is it connecting with the people who are familiar with the Anglican tradition, but people are curious. They've got time on their hands. They're wondering what's going on a Sunday morning, and maybe, especially at Easter time, they felt a need to feel connected. And so, you know, here's this wonderful opportunity. People are going online. They're seeing what's taking place. My guess is that when we're back in our churches, that we're going to want to continue doing live streaming. We may not want to do it every week. We may not find that we're able to do it every week. But because of the live stream experience right now, and because so many parishes are doing such a good job of it, that there's going to become an expectation that we continue on with this, because there's going to be a group of people for whom live streaming is the only way they connect with us.
Yeah.
Just think of the possibilities now within the network of our churches. Who could be participating in those live streams? People who are shut-ins, people who live in retirement homes, people who have moved away from the church but still want to feel connected to it. Those people now have a way to connect with the church, not only a way of seeing old friends and family members, not only of seeing the familiarity of the church in which they may have grown up in and worshiped. We're now able to reach an audience that we couldn't reach simply with corporate worship. And some of those people are going to want to stay connected to us, or have the option to stay connected to us through live streaming.
And to support the church, yeah.
It's part of reimagining the new church, because the new church is taking advantage of the technology so that it's able to be relevant to people within their context.
Relevant and accessible. Yeah.
You bet. Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit, just the last few minutes we've got, about, you know, all our church fundraisers are canceled right now. No one's doing strawberry teas or bake sales. So what about some non-event fundraising?
Yeah, well, in fact, this is something we're going to have to consider in the Diocese of Toronto, because each year we hold a very significant fundraiser we call the Bishop's Company Dinner. We have it in October. For us, it raises a lot of money, and the money is used to support clergy in need and to come to their assistance with, you know, sometimes it's emergency airfare, sometimes it's assistance with healthcare costs, or to allow people to take extra courses, for example. So the Bishop's Company Dinner is a really vital fundraising event for us, and we're scratching our heads this year wondering how we're going to do this, because typically it's an event where we have about 500 people attend, and 10 people are sitting around a table, and you know, it's an event that takes about 4 hours in an evening, and you know, obviously with all the emphasis on social distancing right now, it's not clear to me whether by October, not only will we be able to get 500 people together, but will 10 people even want to be crowded around a table? So you know, what do we do? So one of the things that I'm sure we're thinking of, and I don't know if we'll actually put this plan in action, is to actually have some sort of charity dinner, or you might even call it a kitchen party, that's done virtually. So it'll certainly, it would be more challenging with a large audience like 500 people. But let's rip that small a little bit and say, you know, for many of our parishes, typical attendance on a Sunday may be anywhere between 50 and 75. And so it would be possible to do some sort of fundraiser through Zoom. You could do a ceilidh or a kitchen party, and everybody sort of brings spoons or some sort of instrument. And I mean, it could end up being, I guess it could be a disaster if there was all sorts of chaos taking place, but I'm sure you could coordinate it so that you could do some sort of shared music opportunity. You know, it would be possible to do sort of like a virtual potluck where everybody gathers using the power of Zoom technology. They may sit around their own table at home and have dinner, but they're able to, maybe you can have a speaker or you can have a special performer there. It would be interesting, and I'm sure many charitable organizations are exploring how to do this. But there's something else I want to share with you about one parish in the Diocese of Toronto that does what's called a tealess tea. So I'm going to read from it. So I've written it down. So if my eyes are not on the screen, I'm just reading exactly what's here. So the tealess tea is an interesting event developed by St. Margaret's New Toronto. It's a take on an old idea of direct mail, but what they actually do is they send out a formal invitation to afternoon tea to everybody who is on the church mailing list. So this doesn't include just people who are attending. These are friends. These are people who have moved away and lost contact with the church, but they still receive an invitation to the tealess tea. And so what they get sent out is a very formal invitation. And with that formal invitation, there is a self-addressed stamped envelope. There's a newsletter, a pledge card, and a bag of premium tea that is inserted in the envelope.
I love it.
And everyone is invited to attend tea in the comfort of their own homes, but then they're encouraged to mail in a donation that, for example, might cover the cost of an actual event. Ironically, now that we have this sort of technology, we can have a tealess tea together. We could actually have a Zoom strawberry social if we wanted to, in the comfort of our own homes. But by using Zoom technology, we can have 30, 40, or 50 people gathered all together at the same time. We can have some entertainment take place while it's going on, and we can share in the fellowship of one another, recognizing that we have to maintain a level of social distancing. So there are opportunities that we could capitalize on in terms of using technology, of having eventless event fundraising.
Fantastic. I think it's just about being as creative as you can imagine being, right? Finding those opportunities.
It was an idea that St. Margaret's has now had for I don't know how many years, but they plan for it as if it's a line item on their budget. You know, it raises them $10,000 a year, and it's actually simple and straightforward, and they do it with such regularity. And I thought I would share with others because I think it's a really simple fundraiser that parishes could do. You don't need the technology necessarily to do it, but it's something that parishes can begin doing immediately.
And it doesn't really exhaust everybody.
Pardon me?
It doesn't exhaust everybody. You know, you don't have to.
Oh, no,
all the physical work of these things. Fantastic. So, wow, thanks a lot, Peter, for your time. What's one last thought about the time we're in right now about financial generosity? It just seems to me that change has been thrust upon us, change that really needed to come. We really needed to kind of look at change, and now it's happened. So what are we going to take with us on the way out?
So, you know, the interesting thing here is that a lot of the things that are happening right now for us in terms of live streaming and changes in technology in the church, we might have gotten to them in 2 or 3 or 5 years. There wasn't really anything sort of pushing us to have to act immediately. Now COVID-19 has forced us into a lockdown situation, and parishes have no choice. If they want to remain relevant and stay connected with people, they've got to have a website. They've got to start doing a live stream. And as this thing drags on, they realize we want to maintain that connection, because we don't know when this is actually going to come to an end. We don't know how long social distancing is going to become a reality. We may get the green light. I know certainly in Quebec, they've been given the green light to start bringing kids back into schools. But even that, they're doing them in small groups. I think they're doing 15 students at a time, and they're probably going to do them on off days. So that we can try to adapt to this reality. What's that going to look like in our churches? We don't know.
Yeah.
So what we do know is that we have this technology that exists right now. It allows us to stay connected with members of our congregation. It allows us to still continue to mention generosity, to be ever present in discussing themes of sharing and recognizing volunteers and expressing gratitude. We can continue to use the medium that we have. We're being pushed. We're being forced almost now to respond to the technology and the virus. As much as I loathe to say this, is actually making this possible for us. We're having to do this to stay relevant, and it's going to become. It is an expectation that this continue when we get back to normal.
Yeah, and that includes with our financial generosity to use the tools at our disposal now,
Right.
And stop kind of being shy about it, because if we're just relying on envelopes, we're just
and my final thought is, though, that PAR is still valuable. So
PAR is good, yeah.
If you are on envelopes, please consider moving your donation over to pre-authorized remittance or pre-authorized giving, whatever they call it in Montreal. Please do that. And if you're comfortable continuing with your envelopes, please make sure that you continue supporting your church on a weekly basis. One of the ideas that we've suggested in Toronto is that the parish priest be available to receive church offerings, say during a set time, say Tuesdays between 2 and 4. He or she will be on the steps of the church to receive those offerings in the collection basket, and we'll say a blessing over you when you come and make that offering, because we've got to keep our churches alive. The ministry that we're doing is absolutely vital. We don't want, when we do have the doors open again, we want to be able to get back to the work that we love and cherish really quickly. So if we respond effectively now, the onboarding will be a piece of cake when that time and date comes.
Peter, thank you for your time. It's always good to talk to you.
Great, Neil.
And take care. Thanks so much for everything you've given us.
Okay. God bless. God bless to everyone in Montreal. Take care.